yesterday, and now today I'm thinking I'm gonna be hot. Like yesterday, I feel like they didn't turn the heat on at all, and then it just was crazy. I cannot keep this class straight from Trey right now. We're graphing it.
Yep. Our graph is my favorite.
I just went to open my file out of Trey because I forgot that it's just Dylan back. No tears in it. He's all my Trey pre-calc double up. John. It's the last day in November.
Woo-hoo. When does winter officially start? Can I look?
Is it? I think it's December 21st, but you can look. I think that's what it is. That's my guess. Stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, is that it?
In the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
And it ends on March 20th. Can you believe we're going to be in 2022?
No. I still haven't gotten used to writing 2021 yet. It's really hard for me to think, like, if I see, like, a date like January 2021, I think that's next year still.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wrap my head around that.
Like,
That
it
was
feels like we should have, like, not saying I want it, but it feels like we should have, like, another year of school, because I feel like we've missed so much. Like,
yeah, you
COVID.
missed it. Yeah.
So, like, I feel like we just, like, it doesn't feel right.
You're just like, you just want all the experiences, not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
do all that stuff over again.
I don't
Not
actually
like,
want to have to, like, work.
yeah,
Like,
right. Like I don't want all the classes. But yeah, no, it definitely. Or just remember, like I just like going to your game the other day. Like I realized that last year I watched all the games on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, so it was just strange to be in person. All right, so.
It's really going to like iPod games and stuff.
Yeah, because you're the freshman.
Oh yeah.
You should worry, but
Okay, so and I kind of brought this up, and I don't know if I had just forgotten this because I haven't taught hyperbolas for a few years, but I kind of remembered that like the whole idea of I like drawing the y and the x as I'm doing these, so that way I can kind of see, like, and they call it like the hyperbola rectangle. It kind of sets up like how wide everything should be as well. So in like the y direction, I should go out 8. And then that would be out here, bless you. And then in the x direction, I would go up and down 9. Oh, I'm going the wrong way when Chase got me. That's x and y and flipped, sorry. All right, 9 is this way, sorry. The x direction is 9. Sorry,
I did
1,
wrong
2,
too.
3, 4, 5.
that sucks.
And actually, it made me think twice because I had looked at Sam's as I walked by, and I was kind of like, why am I going this way? And Sam went the other way. And then up and down 8, 1, 2, 3, and down 8. So what this does is it kind of helps us to determine like kind of the shape of our hyperbola. It's like not required, but it kind of drives me crazy to not like draw this like very nicely, like this, you know, knowing exactly how wide my hyperbola should be. However, since the y is first, that's where our vertex will be, right? So up and down, right? Because the y is first. Remember, this doesn't have to do with whether or not the x or y is bigger, or the a or b is bigger. Then to find our focus, our C value, this is the one where, again, so trying to remember some of these things so you're not like totally relying on a note card, is if this is minus, the C is then positive. It's A squared plus B squared. It's kind of the opposite. What is that, 45?
Yeah.
Which is a little over 12 out. So in the y direction, we're going to go out 12 to put that focus. Because 144 would be 12. And then I'm going to go down here. And then again, what the box kind of does, or the rectangle here, is it kind of helps us to see how wide our hyperbola should go. So then we can just go out from, oh, that wasn't very good. Still not good. Apparently can't get that dot. And again, I'd like to say thank goodness for a note card, because there's a lot to remember with this. And again, I get mixed up all the time too, because it's just something that you just have to practice. I mean, I'm out of practice with it as well. It's not like I'm graphing hyperbolas on the weekend, unless I'm actually teaching it. So, as cool as you think I might be, not quite that. But anyway. So we're going to talk about graphing hyperbolas when the equation's not in that standard form. Now, we're going to talk about this more in a couple days, is how to determine whether or not, just like they tell me this is a hyperbola, but eventually we're going to be able to tell just by the equation that is versus an ellipse versus the other shapes we're going to talk about as well. But with our hyperbola, remember we want it to equal 1. So this equation, we're going to start off by getting it to equal 1. So kind of starting pretty simple in this case, where remember it's always like x squared or y squared being added or subtracted, and then it equals 1. So we're going to divide by 12. And then just simplify like we kind of did with our ellipse. Now these don't work out to be very nice numbers, so don't let that bug you too much, because obviously it's all an estimate anyhow. But where is our center on this hyperbola? The origin. We haven't done many like that with a hyperbola where the origin is our center. There's no h or k, so our center is 0, 0. They didn't ask for this, but just kind of to remind us, our center would be 0, 0. So we'll put a dot there. Then, since the x is first, this is going to be going out to either side. So we're going to go out each way 2 because of the 4 there. So that's telling us to go out 2. And then the y is telling us to go up and down the square root of 6, which is like 2 point, is that 4-ish? Did anyone do that yet? I don't know. Square root of 6, anyone? Yeah, 2.44. Yeah. And this one's not really as important. Again, that's just to kind of get kind of how wide and this graph should be. Oops, I went up further. Now, our focus in this one, remember we add, so we do the square root of 4 plus 6. So it's the square root of 10. So that's gonna be like 3 point something, like 3.1-ish. So we're gonna go out for our focus. And then again, this kind of helps us to set our guidelines for how we're gonna draw our ellipse. Or our ellipse, our hyperbola, whatever we're drawing here. And I'm not going to be too picky about that. Like if you you don't end up putting that rectangle in, or if you're, I mean, it's not like I'm going to say, oh, you didn't get close enough to those diagonal lines. It's not really that something we need to be that picky about. But you should be able to identify the vertex, the focus, like be able to find all those things. If I ask you for it, so like knowing how to find C is going to be important. Okay, so the next one is a little bit tougher, where we have to do a little bit more work to get the hyperbola's equation. And I only did one example like this, and we'll see if you catch on. If not, we can always do a couple on our whiteboards or something, or if you feel like it's okay, we can leave it. But now this one, again, they tell us it's a hyperbola, so that's kind of useful information at this point. Eventually, they shouldn't have to tell us. But it's really similar to our ellipse, where we're going to organize everything. So get everything kind of in an organized, like x squareds or x's are together, y's are together, kind of just rearrange here a little bit. Now the reason I know to put the x squared first, we typically put x squared first, but since the y squared is negative, I know that's going to go second, the negative 25y squared. Or sorry, negative 16y squared. So it's really not all that different from our ellipse. I'm not going to say not any different, not all that different from our ellipse. We're just going to deal with that negative a little bit more carefully. So we still have to factor like we did with an ellipse before we complete the square. And I just want to make sure before I get too far with this, with that negative. Yeah.
How do you know which goes first, like the x and the y?
Because we want the positive one first.
Is there always going to be a negative one?
Yeah, if it's a hyperbola, yes. If it's not, if there's no negative, then it's actually going to be an ellipse. And again, we'll talk. You won't be like stumped on that today. Like the ones I have you guys graph will be hyperbola. They'll tell you. Okay. But eventually, we'll have to be able to determine the difference, which hopefully it'll be kind of a little obvious once we get better at this. So I do need to take out that 25 though. And again, leave a little space there. And now again, I know I want that second term to be negative because it's a hyperbola. I'm going to take out a negative 16 though. So I'm going to put the negative on the outside. And 96 divided by negative 16 is going to be a negative, what is that? 6. All right, so here's where we're ready to complete the square. So remember, completing the square is where we do b divided by 2 squared. But don't forget about the fact that those are inside the parentheses and we have to distribute there. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, squared is 4. But because of this is actually going to be 100. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, squared is 9. And then a negative 16 times 9 is going to be a negative 144. So notice that negative does apply there as well. So I should be ready to factor here. Where this is going to be x plus 2. And this one's going to be y minus 3. Oh, that's going to be 400 over there, isn't it? All right, and remember that a hyperbola needs to equal 1. We're going to get rid of that 400, so we're going to divide by 400 to all these terms. And if you're like, oh, I'm not good with fractions, 25 over 400, if you haven't gathered already, you can do 400 divided by 25, and that's the number that just goes on the bottom then. So if you haven't caught on to that, that's a helpful little piece there. And then this one ends up being 25. So it's really not all that different from the ellipse. So like if you were okay with that, this probably isn't that much different. Yeah.
Never mind. I figured it out.
And yeah, that just kind of hangs out in the front. So I don't know if that's what you're ahead of the negative.
Yeah,
We
that's
kind of
right.
ignore it and just bring it down. It's probably, I mean, it's almost like not a factor except for a few little places that it's important. So I do want us to practice still graphing just to get good at this or better at it if you're already good. So our center. And then again, this is going to be an x squared hyperbola, so that means it's going off to the sides. Some nice numbers there for us though in terms of and then our focus, we need to do at 41. So like 6 point something for our focus. 6.5. What is that? 0.4 again. 6.4. And then again, going ahead and be able to graph our hyperbola. It's a wider hyperbola today here, or this one. How are we feeling on that, on the completing the square thing? Are we okay on just the one example? Because it's similar to the ellipse, or is it not similar enough? Are we okay? Becca says it's okay. You guys all good too?